Chase McGrath for the win for the Volunteers. From 40, on the way, knuckleball. He got it!
Well, welcome in YouTube. I decided to live stream this. I am also going to archive it in regular videos. So essentially this is going to get double posted, and I'm going to fix my camera real quick. It is kind of a little bit high, showing me to be low. But anyway, so we have a big day of college football. It's the opening day. You see me repping my Dwayne Haskins jersey. Now, I wish it said Haskins jersey. Rest in peace to Simba, though. Tragic accident that happened there, but he was basically the first quarterback recruitment that I really followed super closely as a Buckeye fan. I, knew who they were a lot when I was younger coming in and stuff like that. I'd heard about them or whatever, but I never actually followed a recruitment like I did Dwayne Haskins until Dwayne Haskins. So he was the first one. I loved Dwayne Haskins in college, and rest in peace to the Simba. That is all I'm going to say about this. I will wear this quite often. Let's just put it that way. This season, I've worn it, by the way, for the last 5 seasons quite often. Now, we are going to real quick rewind over what happened on Thursday and Friday. Now, Thursday night, we had a handful of games that were important. First off, I just want to shout out Peyton Wilson for a massive, massive game. 10 tackles, 8 solo. He had a tackle for loss. He had a pass deflection. And then he had the game-sealing interception, which they were up by 10. Probably would have won no matter what, but had the game-sealing interception. That was massive for NC State to see that out of their star linebacker, Peyton Wilson. Now, I'm going to put up the bottom line ticker here as we go through this. The Utah-Florida game was an absolute mess. I am going to tell you this right now. Anybody who wants to start the narrative that Graham Mertz played poorly, he played really well. He was running for his life most of the night. The fact that he didn't get sacked more than the 6 times that he got sacked is a miracle. That offensive line was absolutely horrible. The worst SEC offensive line I've seen in a very long time outside of maybe Vanderbilt. So that was pretty bad. That Florida defense was pretty good, though. I don't think it was as bad as a lot of people make it out to be, but they were very undisciplined, a lot of procedural penalties. It wasn't necessarily undisciplined as far as like, hey, they were going out and trying to like start fights with the Utah Utes squad. I'm going to turn off that light. It's kind of annoying me, though I am pretty dark without it. So let's try to focus that. Anyway, so when it comes to that game, Florida has a lot to work with. I'm not going to sell out on Billy Napier, but that's a really bad look for Billy Napier. How about Nebraska, Minnesota? The reputation is still going to be there with Nebraska. They choke away a lead. They were up with about 2 or 3 minutes left. They fumble the ball at midfield. Minnesota gets the ball 4th and 10. A double move, beautiful double move by Dan Jackson. It was amazing, and he ends up scoring a touchdown on that post corner, or the slow corner, I guess. It's kind of a narrow post or a slant, or a shorter post or a slant, and then corner. So it was a great route by Daniel Jackson. Very clutch, big-time play. Kaliakmanis was okay, I guess. I mean, they threw the ball a ton. They couldn't run the ball. Minnesota is not a very good team whatsoever. They got outplayed most of this game, and by season end, it will definitely be a Nebraska favor there, but Nebraska had a problem with turning the ball over. Jeff Sims couldn't throw the ball at all. And then that 10-10 point where they're trying to drive down the field to maybe set up for a game-winning field goal. I'm a little bit mad because though Walk That Line had that 7.5, I like Nebraska money line too. So there you have that. And Jeff Sims throws a pick right around midfield. Minnesota drills the walk-off winner, 13-10. An ugly game, a disastrous game, very bad. How about last night? What all happened last night? Well, Louisville's offense clicked and was able to pull away after Georgia Tech looked really good, by the way, in Brent Key's first game. I told you guys I think Georgia Tech is going to make a bowl game. I don't think they're a bad team, and I think they're actually farther ahead than I thought they would be. At this point, I thought that this Georgia Tech team might be a pretty solid team. Now, Louisville was very disappointing. Specifically, Jack Plummer was rather disappointing for a lot of this game. I thought Jack Plummer would sling that rock around. I thought he would be able to throw for over 300 yards. I thought he'd have a big game. He ended up cleaning it up. There was a point in time where he was like 3 for 10 early in this game, but he ended up going 18 for 31. He did have the one pick, and he had 3 touchdowns. They need to get the ball more to Jawar Jordan, though. Anytime that he touched the ball, it was absolutely electric. He had the 74-yard run and just broke it free. Isaac Warrendo also getting some carries. Those two, they need to just run the ball more, and that goes against what Jeff Brom likes to do. I get it, but Brom needs to not be stubborn if he wants this Louisville team to have a chance this year. But overall, that was the headline last night. Great game. Miami looked fantastic against a decent Miami of Ohio team. So kudos to Mario Cristobal and that staff and Shannon Dawson. I will say that offense was not as electric, but it was certainly a lot more efficient. I still have concerns about the wide receiver core out there, but they were able to absolutely hold on defense. They look significantly improved on defense, and Tyler Van Dyke did not look bad in this game. Even though he had a pick, he still played decent. Nothing to be overly concerned about, nothing to overjudge about, but Mario Cristobal got his team up for this one. All right. Kansas wins set 48-17. I'm curious what's going to happen with Jalen Daniels. Yesterday, Jason Bean ended up playing the entire way, and he played very well, I will say. I mean, he had an 85 QBR, 22 of 28, 2 touchdowns, and they ended up finding guys like, Luke Grimm for a touchdown, and Devin Neal out of the backfield was definitely a big playmaker. Lawrence Arnold, Quentin Skinner, Mason Fairchild, Trevor Cardle, they all got involved yesterday. And then finally, after I fell asleep, Stanford, Troy Taylor. How about this one? 37-24. I was very, very surprised by this. Ashton Daniels looked really good. Stanford, a better team than Vanderbilt? What? Stanford actually looked pretty good, and I think they are going to be a better team, from what I could tell, than a lot of people expected. And also, kudos to Braden Shager. He is playing very good football early on. I get he had the 2 picks, but both, specifically one of them, was a spectacular play by DeRicky Wright of Vanderbilt. And they get a short week here. They come back home, and Shager lit it up. That is definitely concerning for Stanford as they play that Pac-12 schedule. All right, enough about those games. We are going to get straight in to the week 1 previews for the rest of the week. Now I'm going to make it like this, and we are going to talk about it. Colorado. What is Colorado? What are we going to see from Colorado, specifically on the lines of scrimmage? You've heard a lot of people be critical of it, but the bottom line is this: Colorado, definitely a wild card here because you just don't know what they're going to have. Travis Hunter, likely going to play both sides of the ball. And then, of course, you got guys like Alton McCaskill, who's a really good running back. Shador Sanders, I think, is a really good quarterback, and a lot of people are giving him crap because his coach is his dad. But at the end of the day, he is a pretty solid quarterback, and he played really well, albeit against HBCUs and FCS schools. But still, Shador Sanders was was the best HBCU quarterback last year, and it wasn't close, right? He's going to be able to translate, I think, well. Now, reading a defense, specifically a 3-3-5 defense, that can be confusing, like what TCU is going to bring to the table. That's going to be interesting, but TCU did lose quite a bit here. I do think a lot of points are going to be scored in this game, a ton. There's a reason why the over-under was set at 63.5. And the TCU Horned Frogs are going with Chandler Morris, of course, who was the guy who's won the starting job last year. I think TCU is going to score a lot of points. I think Colorado is going to score a lot of points. More on this game later. I do think TCU wins. Not sure about the spread. Throw out the spread, but more on this game later. Boise State, number 21, Boise State in my poll. I think a lot of people are underrating Boise State, and they are going on the road at Washington. This is a perfect matchup for Boise State to be able to show that they have a fantastic defense that can go up against the best passing attacks in Power 5 football, and you're going to see that with guys like Roma Dunze, with McMillan, and with all the receivers that Washington and Michael Penix Jr. has to work with. Now, This secondary is a concern for Washington. Is Boise State built to expose that? It depends on the development of Taylor Green in the offseason. That's going to be big. But Andy Avalos is going to have a great defense this year. This is going to be a great game. I would not be surprised if the under did hit. I might have more on this game later, but I am not picking. That's just me throwing out a teaser, maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. But I'm excited for this game. Really excited to see what transpires. Of course, my Buckeyes play at 3:30. Hopefully, I don't have to watch that too long, but I am curious about our quarterback battle, and we'll talk about that in a second. I think Washington does win this game. I'm not sure about the spread. I think it could be close. It also could be a blowout and a complete mismatch because Boise State cannot have that firepower on offense. Boise State's offense and how much they have progressed from last year is the big mystery here. Does Boise State have a chance to win this game? Absolutely. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were to do so. All right, speaking of Ohio State, by the way, 3:30 CBS, number 4 in my poll, Ohio State taking on Indiana on the road. Now, Indiana starting Taven Jackson, his first start as a college quarterback. I don't know if Taven Jackson is exactly ready. I'm not really fully bought into this Indiana team. I think that their offense is going to struggle and sputter a little bit. And this might be a situation that, hey, maybe, just maybe, I'm going to play that under for Indiana points. We might talk about that later. We might not. But the one thing I'm looking forward to the most is Ohio State. First off, I am curious to see the changes that Ohio State's going to have on offense with Kevin Wilson out the door. Not because he was calling the plays or anything, but he was really influential when it came to the run game at Ohio State. A lot of stretch concepts, no zone or gap schemes. I shouldn't say no, very little. And you start to see that influence of Justin Fry take form a little bit later in the year when they had a better run game later in the year, including when they went off against Indiana last year in the shoe with the run game. I expect for a lot more gap schemes with Justin Fry's more influential impact in that run game. So I'm very curious to see how Travion Henderson, Mayan Williams, and forgotten about because of his ACL, Evan Pryor. I'm curious to see how those running backs work. Also, Chip Trainum and Dallin Hayden. You could talk about them too. Of course, those guys, specifically Dallin Hayden, next up next year, assuming Mayan and Trey leave. I am also curious to see what the defense looks like. I'm curious to see who's starting on the outside corner. I'm pretty sure we're seeing Davison Igbinosun and Denzel Burke on the outside with a slot guy being Sonny Styles as more of like a hybrid, like he's a box safety, how you want box safeties with his build, 6'2", 230. He's built kind of like a linebacker, but he's athletic enough to play safety. He's a perfect hybrid, a lot like Isaiah Simmons. That's a comparison you will hear all year long. Regardless, I think Ohio State does blow them out. I think Devin Brown emerges as the starter going forward today, but that answer is maybe or probably not going to get answered in this game. However, I think Buckeye fans will definitely see that Devin Brown is the better quarterback. And again, I've been saying this all week. I could be wrong. I will take it if I'm wrong, but I think Devin Brown takes the job, and I think Ohio State covers 30. And that might be a fan take. All right, their Eastern Division rival, Penn State, number 8 in my poll, taking on West Virginia at home. The interesting thing I will be looking for is this Neil Brown secondary improved? In this 3-3-5 system that he has installed with West Virginia since he got there in 2020, this secondary has been decent the first couple of years, but last year they were horrible, and they're going up against a mystery team when it comes to wide receiver. We know they have, and I was talking about this on Mark Rogers' show the other day when I called in there. We know that they have a guy in Lambert Smith who can absolutely stretch the field. Who else is going to step up, though? Is it going to be a younger guy that we haven't really seen, a guy like Hayden Saunders potentially? Is it going to be a guy like Harrison Wallace as well, who flashed last year? Is it going to be the transfer Dante Cephas? Who is going to be that guy who steps up? We know they're going to have a good run game. We know that they're going to have a good offensive line to protect Drew Aller. I am curious to see how this goes. I'm also curious to see what West Virginia does. The one thing you could try to gain out of this matchup is the fact that West Virginia's run game is going to be pretty solid, headlined by C.J. Donaldson coming back for a sophomore year, the tight end convert who in his first game absolutely went off against Pittsburgh in a game that they nearly won on the road in Heinz Field a year ago. C.J. Donaldson and being able to expose a rush attack that got exposed against the Michigan Wolverines last year, that is going to be the only way West Virginia keeps this close. I lean the Penn State cover, but I am going to be very interested and curious to come in and watch this game to see if West Virginia is better than the nation thinks and to see if Penn State has an absolute stud at the quarterback position, at least to start with. So that's my predictions on this game. I think Penn State does cover, but it's pretty close. This game is going to be a lot of fun. I might sprinkle money line with South Alabama because South Alabama is a really good team. It is definitely a gamble that might be worth your while, and they are on the road at Tulane in NOLA. This is going to be fantastic if South Alabama is able to build off of the success that they had last year. They got ran off the field in the bowl game against Western Kentucky. How does Kane Womack's squad that returns a ton of production respond? I do think that South Alabama covers. I kind of think Tulane's going to win, but I would not be surprised whatsoever if South Alabama takes this one. But at the end of the day, I think Tulane has a pretty decent defense, and they have a lot of athletes on the perimeter. They have a good run game as well every single year. I get that they're replacing a couple of guys on offense, but they return a lot, and I trust in the ability for Willie Fritz's teams to be able to run the ball. So Michael Pratt and Tulane, I think, get the win. I think it's a close game. I think South Alabama might just cover that 6.5. North Carolina, South Carolina. This is a non-ranked game, which is why you don't see it scrolling down here. I do not have North Carolina ranked. I think they're going to have to prove something to me on defense here. And I do think South Carolina is going to score a lot of points in this game as well. Juice Wells, of course, the highlight. However, South Carolina got absolutely gutted in the transfer portal. I do think their defense is significantly better than North Carolina's, though. And Drake May is going to be without Tez Walker, his big playmaker that was supposed to be back this year because he has still not passed a waiver. Of course, they lost Antoine Green. They lost Josh Downs. Basically, all they have is the tight end Nesbitt back from last year's team. I think it's going to take some time for North Carolina's weapons to absolutely take fold and take control of this season and take grasp and help out Drake May. Though Drake May is a fantastic player, I don't think he's going to be able to put up the numbers like he did last year. And I think he's going to need to because I do not see improvement for this defense. I think South Carolina wins this game outright as the 2-point underdog, 2.5-point underdog. And I think that this game is not even necessarily close. I think it's a bad matchup for North Carolina, just like it was in the Duke's Mayo Bowl back in 2021. South Carolina wins outright. LSU, number 6 in the country. Number 9, Florida State. I almost said number Florida State, 9. This is going to be the game of the week, probably the best game that we're going to have in the first 3 weeks. I love Alabama, Texas. I get that, but this is also a great game. I really don't know who's going to win this game because I like so much about both teams. I think Florida State and LSU both have really good defenses. I also think that they have really good receiving corps. I think that Keon Coleman, Tyler kind of said it on his show, and I think I said it first. I think Keon Coleman is going to be a Biletnikoff potential finalist, if not winner. I think he's going to be in that running for the Biletnikoff this year. Keon Coleman is a really, really good player that a lot of people don't know about because he kind of got handcuffed a little bit at Michigan State. But when the handcuffs were free, he went off against the Michigan Wolverines in a game that they didn't score a lot of points. But Keon Coleman was an absolute monster, tore up that DJ Turner in that game. So I really, really like Florida State and what they have here. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go with LSU in this game. And -2, I'm not sure that's not enough points for me to take, but this was a one, or that is enough points for you to take. I guess like it's low enough, but LSU here, and this won't be an official play. I promise you that. If I play this game, it's because I did great today. That's just how that's going to go, and I want some entertainment there. We'll talk about it a little bit later. Right now, it's at 56.5, the over-under. Or it was at 56.5. I think it got bet down to 55.5 this morning. But LSU and Florida State, they both have really good defenses. I think points are going to be hard to come by. I think the better run games with Florida State. I think a better defense is probably with LSU, even without Mason Smith. This is going to be a classic. This is going to be a great game. I think ball control is going to be part of it, part of the answer for Florida State. Though they have two really good receivers on the outside, I think that they also trust that their offensive line is going to be able to work with Trey Benson. I am picking LSU, like I said. I do not even know what is going to happen in this game, but it's going to be a ton, and I mean a ton of fun to watch. And that's all I got to say. Both teams, really good teams. Both teams in my top 10 for a reason. Monday, Clemson, Duke. I think this is going to be a really good game. I think you're talking about a game that Clemson is going to end up being asked to hold at the end of it and just say, hey, you got to keep Duke from scoring and getting themselves back in the game, or you got to keep Duke from scoring to potentially tie the game or win the game at the end. Riley Leonard is really good. They return a lot on offense as well. But Clemson's got more talent, and a lot of people are not high on that talent at Clemson. I think Duke's going to put up some points. I think they get in the 20s, but I think that this is like a 38-24 type of game. I think that Clemson, though it's going to be a good game, they get right around that number, and I certainly don't want to play that spread. But I think Clemson should win this game, but they're going to win this game through some adversity like some Clemson teams of the past have done before. So I like Clemson to beat Duke on the road with it being a pretty solid game. All right, walk that line time. We're going to talk about the locks of the week. Right now I'm 3-4. Now I'm going to say this, no lie to you guys. If we would have played yesterday, I would have 100% went 3-0. The plays that I played on my personal account, but of course, since I didn't make a video, I didn't add that and walk that line. So you walk that line with me, because yesterday what I did was Louisville, Georgia Tech over. That smacked. That was easily over. I think the over-under was in the 50s. I can't even remember. It was either in the 40s and 50s. They scored combined in the 70s. So that smacked. I was happy about that. That smacked pretty early too. So I am pretty sure it was in the 40s. Kansas, I got lucky with this one. I will say I did take the over Kansas points. I think it was like 46.5. They end up hitting 48. It was kind of like a backdoor with them. I think they were trying to stretch that lead because they were kind of struggling a little bit with Jalen Daniels out, like I previously mentioned. And then I took the Stanford Hawaii over, and that hit as well. I think that one was in the 50s, and it was a little bit closer of a hit, but it still hit nonetheless. In fact, I could actually check the settled here to see what I got it at real quick. If you guys don't mind, I have a little bit of time to check the settled. But yeah, 3-0 yesterday. So I didn't add it to the official record because I'm not going to be disingenuous and be like, oh, by the way, I went 3-0. But trust me, like Walk That Line is doing a lot better this week. So far, if I would have played those and had a video yesterday like I initially planned, I'd be 4-1 on the week, or 5-1 on the week, which is pretty dang solid. I also hit a teaser, by the way. I didn't play this teaser, but Central Florida, Utah, Nebraska, Hawaii, all covering their spreads, teased up 10 points. I ended up getting that, hitting that, and I also had Hawaii at plus 14.5 in that. So it was a close call when it comes to that, especially because Hawaii was able to put up some points in that fourth quarter yesterday, late last night. So yeah, Stanford, Hawaii was over under a 55.5 points, 37-24. Do some quick math here. Math is hard, apparently. That's 61, I think. Yeah, 61 sounds right. And then Georgia Tech and Louisville. Now, I did take the Louisville over, and then I also took the match over. I didn't realize I did both of those. So I took the Louisville over, that smacked, and then I took the over 49.5 points, and that smacked. I mean, that wasn't even close. So I'm on a roll according to yesterday. Hopefully that roll continues today. We're going to start with Tennessee minus 27.5. I love the fact that Matt Collins is coming back and playing. I love the fact that Virginia is back today. It's a great story. Tennessee is a way better team. at the end of the day, and they're going to throw that rock around. I think a good extra play to this would be the Tennessee over points. I think it was like 52.5 though, or something like that, something absurd. I'm not sure what it was though. I'm not positive on that. I'm not even sure what the over-under is for this game. I like Tennessee to cover, though. I don't think this game is close for very long, and I think Tennessee puts their foot on the pedal just like Josh Heupel does against inferior competition all throughout his career. Colorado over 21.5. This is a little bit of a risk here. Decent odds at -106. But with that being said, I have two schools of thoughts with this. Number one, if Colorado is going to keep it close, it's because they have offensive success. If they don't keep it close, Deion's going to try to build off of something and score late. So even if this game is at halftime and it's like 28-7, and in the third quarter, they're down like 10-42 or something like that, 10-42, 10-45, whatever, getting blown out. Guess what Colorado's going to be doing? Chucking that ball. They're going to score maybe a touchdown or two in the fourth quarter. I'm going to guess that this game goes like, if it's a blowout in TCU's favor, 52-24 type of game. If it's not a blowout, then I could see this game being like 31-28, and Colorado is sticking around and being pretty good. So I'm going to take the Colorado over. That's a little bit of a flyer, but I like that. This isn't a flyer to me. I think that Texas drops a 50 burger on Rice's defense, and they're also going to get the ball plenty because I think Rice is going to throw the ball around a little bit more than they had in the past with JT Daniels at quarterback. I hope I'm right about that. They might not. They might be run heavy. But regardless, I don't know if that changed anything for Texas. I think at minimum they score 48. So I'm going to take Texas 47.5 over. Not as much of a gamble, but still watch what happens. Colorado covers, but Texas doesn't as far as their team total. That's not all we have, though. Next slide. South Carolina money line, +106 right now. Take it. Braylon Allen over 88.5 yards. It would not surprise me if Braylon Allen doesn't hit this. I am counting on the fact that Braylon Allen is going to get a 50-plus yard touchdown run in this game because I think he's probably going to be out at halftime or in the third quarter, after the third quarter against Buffalo. Buffalo's not a great team, but Phil Longo's offense is not going to be an offense that throws that ball around. They were very balanced last year. They were run-oriented in 2020. Yeah, it was 2020. That's right. 2020 at North Carolina. By far, I think that they're going to run the ball a lot more than a lot of people think, including Vegas. I'm taking Braylon Allen over 88.5 yards. Here's also what I'm taking. UMass looked really good, and they were able to run the ball. They are definitely at least scoring a touchdown, but those odds by themselves weren't great. I am taking that with Peyton Thorne over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I think that secondary could struggle for UMass, and I think Hugh Freeze is going to throw the ball a little bit more than a lot of people think. I think Thorne has 2 or 3 touchdowns in this game. I'm hoping that hits because that is the biggest high risk, high reward type of play. But I think that that's a really good same game parlay for you guys to play. UMass over 6.5. They score at least a touchdown, and Thorne over 1.5 touchdowns. I think he at least scores 2. So that's that. We're not done yet. Grayson McCall, I'm taking the under 253.5 yards. I do not trust Tim Beck as far as I can throw it. He completely ruined Devin Leary. I thought that McCall should have transferred, and they're going up against a UCLA team that I don't think is going to be bad defensively. I think they're also going to play ball control with Carson Strong on that offensive side a little bit more too. I could see Grayson McCall sniffing and getting close to the 250-yard mark. I do not see him going over 253.5 yards. I love Grayson McCall. I think he's a great player. I think that Coastal's best bet is going to be to run the ball a lot. But at the end of the day, I don't trust Tim Beck. As far as I can throw him, I'm taking McCall under 253.5 points. I'm also taking the under in the LSU Florida State game. I got it at 55.5. Wish I would have got it at 56.5, but it's -105. I think this game is going to be pretty similar scoring to last year's game. I could see like a 27-24 to kind of make me nervous. But at the end of the day, I don't see a ton of points being scored because I have respect for both defenses, though I do have a lot of respect for both offenses. And finally, Duke over 21.5 points. That is a little bit more of a risk. But hey, I wanted to play something on Monday night, and I think Duke over 21.5 points. They keep it close. They fight. They're going to keep it close against Clemson. I do think Clemson wins the game, but I think that Duke will give Clemson some fits. Overall, though, that is what I have for Walk That Line, guys. And you know dang well that I am going to be hoping that those all hit. Again, some other things that I might do is like parlay a South Alabama money line with something else just to try to get a high risk, high reward type of play, a little tiny sprinkle right there. Maybe not. I also am going to be looking for player props that are outside of this, but those are my 9 plays for Walk That Line. So overall, if we can take that 3 and 4 and just make it a, I don't know, 9 and 7, I would love that so much. It means we'd be plus on the year so far. And if one of those that we hit is that plus 216 same game parlay, whew, I am happy with that. And I don't know what my voice was doing right there. Regardless, I need some water. It is game day. I hope you guys enjoy your game day, and I hope you guys' teams win unless it contradicts any of my predictions or plays. Hate to break it to you. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe. We'll see you guys next time. Peace out.